A lot of you are cleaning the vault this weekend. Some of you have already done it, but a lot still need to. So in this video, I'm going to look inside my vault. It's a mess. It's 499 out of 500, but that's all right. And also, as you know, I make videos, so you're going to see some examples of that in my vault as we go along. I'm not going to actually clean my vault as I'm going. I want to save some time, but I do want to talk about tackling it. Different approaches. There's no right or wrong way. Some of the things that I want to talk about are roles and archetypes worth keeping, rare roles, easy deletes, old gear, how much you should keep of a particular weapon, daily drivers, raid-ready weapons, armor, and more. But before I get in there, I want to give a huge shout out to a continuing sponsor of the channel, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark encrypts your data, it keeps it safe, it's an extra layer of security for all your personal stuff so no one can see it. It hides your true IP address, it's extremely easy to use, and my favorite thing is that it's the only privacy product that allows unlimited simultaneous devices. Most of them limit you, but not Surfshark. You can have it on your phone, your desktop, as many devices as you want. It works as an app or a browser extension, and it allows you to place your phone or laptop anywhere in the world. For HBO Max, it's not available in some countries. With changing your location, it's going to open up. For Netflix, there are about 15 Netflix libraries out there to go out and explore. With changing your location to different areas, you can see what's playing around the world. And when it comes to gaming, you can game in full privacy and security, and that includes big ones like hiding your IP in Discord and other chats, not have to worry about it. Protection is key. Use my code CoolGuy to get 83% off plus 3 extra months free. There's a link down below right at the top of the description, and for whatever reason you're unhappy, they do back a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out for yourself. I really hope you guys get behind Surfshark as they've gotten behind me. It's a really good deal that they have for us. One thing that you need to remember about the vault right now, everything in here is, quote, behind. It is behind. Some of these weapons are going to still be here when Witch Queen drops, but as they drop in Witch Queen, they're going to have the advantage of having the intrinsic perks. Some of them may have foundry traits as well, like Suros and so on. Take an example of all these IS Lunas here. I'm going to come back to IS Luna in a second, but you're going to be able to do the dungeon once Witch Queen drops, and in theory, it's going to have an intrinsic trait. So keep the roles that you've grinded for and try to replicate it if you decide to when the DLC drops. Then all you do is just replace it. But even though these weapons right here do not have those traits, some of them, most of them are still worth keeping. I mean, you did grind for them, and you have them in here, you've kept them for a reason. So the first thing, with the actual act of deletion, you don't necessarily have to delete right now. This is gonna be up to you because in Witch Queen, deleted weapons will give Gunsmith a reputation. So if you do decide to wait, what you can do is lock and unlock everything. Obviously, everything locked, you're keeping. But as an example, in this first row here, when the day comes, you can just go line by line, holding the dismantle button. Cycle through it and delete all of your unlocked weapons. You've already cycled through it, so you're just deleting all of the unlocked weapons, deleting them for the reputation. Easy deletes. And on the topic of easy deletes, there might be a lot of exotic weapons. Maybe you brought them out to try at some point. Remember, you can pull them from collections. Like, you see a couple Ace of Spades in here. I like to get 777 kills on all the new weapon ornaments that come out, so I'm probably gonna let these go. It's just something fun to do. But with your deletes, you're also gonna find the sunset weapons. Now, depending on the player that you are, some of these mean something to you. Some of you are collectors, and there's nothing wrong with collecting. Big examples, the Pinnacle Weapons. Like, sure, you can pull these out of collections, you can get them again. But like for my Hush Bow, I have a kill counter of over 1,000 kills in PvP. I just can't let that go. It brings me memories. I'm okay leaving one spot to it. But there's also gonna be weapons that are sunset, and they're capped, and you might find them because you kept them at some point, like something like Uriel's Gift. It could have some cool perk combinations, but ultimately, we're going to another phase of the game. They're already behind because they're sunset. They're gonna be behind again, like stage 2, because the new weapons are gonna have intrinsic perks. So a lot of these you probably can get rid of. The only reason you would keep it, if it's something extremely rare that you still have fun with, and that could be PvE or PvP. Think something like Marty's Retribution. There's only 2 Waveform grenade launchers in the game, this one and Deafening Whisper. Now, I still keep this, especially for content creation purposes, because you can do cool things with the Wave, Warmind cells, things like that. I use it as a test. You might not use it as a test, but something like this, again, it's in a second phase of the evolution of our weapons, and it's gonna be always at least 2 phases behind. As far as tackling vault cleaning, this is a great place to start. Easy deletion of duplicates or non-used exotics that you can pull, and sunset weapons that are already 2 phases behind. And with those weapons, you need to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Like Austringer, this weapon is very far behind, but I still use it. I still use it in play sessions. I like it. So for something like Austringer or Beloved, if you have them, they probably hold value to you. But if you aren't using them, and we know you're not going to be using these in trials, in GMs, Nightfalls, basically just in Patrol and in the Crucible, it's been sitting there, and if you don't use them or you haven't used them, Already you've replaced them and you haven't gone back. Just be honest with yourself. Next, how many of a weapon should you keep? Like, take this BXR, and with multiple duplicates of a weapon, the value of the weapon needs to be there. So for me, the BXR is, you need to have sound reasoning for keeping multiple roles. You know what you do, you know how you play. So with these BXRs, I am keeping 4 of them. And remember, with something like BXR and Ostringer, say I do dares or the dungeon, I'm looking to replace these roles if they have new intrinsic perks. But it might sound crazy that right now I'm keeping 4, but when you look at it, Demolitionist Adrenaline Junkie is a PvE monster, and it can be for the Crucible as well. Blunt Execution Rounds is very special, and it's only to the BXR. Killing Wind, Elemental Capacitor, I made an entire video out of this. Rare perk combo, it's crazy with stasis, I love it. And then my main perpetual motion kill clip roll. I will use all of these. I have used all these in the past week, and I build them out. For something like IS Luna, I have an obscene amount of IS Lunas, and a lot of these are going to go away. But then you start looking at daily drivers. And I'm going to get into daily drivers in a moment, and I pulled some off of my characters to show you them all. But something like Unrelenting Headstone, I love Headstone on this, because I use it in PvE, I use it in PvP all the time with stasis. There's a lot of synergy there. I'm not getting rid of it. Rangefinder kill clip, all the time. It's a daily driver. And through playtesting this weapon, I loved Rapid Hit Snapshot, and I loved Moving Target Rangefinder. So for me, IS Luna is a main weapon that I use, and there's nothing wrong with keeping 2 to 5 of them because it's a dominant weapon. Nothing at all wrong with that. So if you use them, it's okay to do this. And that brings me to the daily drivers. These are weapons that you use the most. And just because they're not going to have intrinsic traits, that doesn't make them bad, or you're not going to use them going into Witch Queen, even when you get roles that have Foundry and intrinsic traits. Because if you use them now, you will use them later. Later on, with weapon crafting, once you get a clear-cut, better version of an archetype, you can replace it. That's a big thing to consider as you're looking at your weapon. A question you need to ask yourself, can it be used, or is it used as a daily driver? Something that will put in work, and that also goes for something that needs to be raid ready. Because each weapon archetype is eventually a part of the artifact. So some roles that otherwise wouldn't just stick out as a daily driver, something like a 1-for-all scout or a disruption break scout, that does have worth since champions are going to have anti-barrier next season. Next, weapon sets worth keeping. As an example, we haven't seen them, and if you use them, they're still extremely beneficial, like the Warmind cell weapons, Ikelos and the Seraphs. There's an entire mod system dedicated to this. And the mod system hasn't been updated, there's been no new mods, there's been no new weapons. But these mods, Global Reach, Cellular Suppression, Power of Rasputin, Burning Cells, all of them have worth. I would keep these. And the same philosophy continues. If you have a couple of them, compare the roles, see if they can fit a build. Like, look at these 2 Vorpal Seraph sidearms. One is Demo Vorpal, the other is Full Auto Vorpal. Easy choice, the Full Auto is gone. I can add Full Auto as a mod if I really want to. I would keep the Warmind cell weapons. The next set of weapons, some of this won't apply to you, but adepts and aspirational content weapons, like a great example is the Eye of Soul, Trials Sniper Rifle. Great sniper rifle, I love it. Eye of Soul and many other adept weapons and aspirational weapons had a perk refresh at one point. So on this Eye of Soul, the original Eye had Snapshot in the first column. They took that away. With the perk refresh, they put Snapshot in the second column. So look at these right here. I have Snapshot Vorpal and Snapshot Opening Shot. You simply can't get them anymore. And these 2 sniper rifles are highly valued to me. Eye of Soul is a stat monster. I personally enjoy the feel. I can go off with it. But then we have these other ones after the refresh, like Snapshot Killing Wind. It's good, but I'm gonna get rid of it because I have the original set. The non-adept original snap in the first column has a lot more weight for me. Even on the adept roles, you might find this with Scholar, Astral Horizon, Exile's Curse, some GM weapons. And on the flip side, again, be honest with yourself. You might have some adepts or harder to get weapons in your vault that they're only there because of the allure of them being an adept. Maybe for Shadow Price or Hung Jury or a Messenger. The main reason it is sitting in your vault right now is because it's adept. But if the roll is bad, get rid of it. You're holding on to it for the wrong reason. Like if you have an Eye of Soul in your vault that's adept, it's the only one that you have that's Tunnel Vision Wellspring. Could it work? Yeah. But in the grand scheme, you haven't used it and there's a reason why you haven't used it. Get rid of those. They said there's upwards of about 50 new weapons coming and all of those are going to have variations just like we have now. Then coming to your raid weapons, most are going to be worth keeping, like this Chattering Bone. Its time is finally about to come up. Outlaw Rampage is great, but looking at the perk pool, if you have something like Full Auto High Impact Reserve, it's probably not going to be worth a spot. That's going to be compared to the other 450s that you have. And as a whole, the weapons in this game, The system, it's intricate, it's complex, but the theme here is to be honest with yourself as to why you have it. If you can build into it, if it's a daily driver, if it's truly rare. And speaking of truly rare, I want to talk about a couple of those. Now again, the game is vast, there's a lot to go over, and I can't cover them all. Something like Messenger with Desperado immediately comes to mind. Very focused to that weapon, it's extremely strong. I would hold on to it, and if you do trials at a later date, and it has intrinsic perks, that's when you replace it. But now's not the time. I recently went over Deafening Whisper, the only waveform in the game now currently that isn't sunset, and who knows if we're going to get another one. So things like these are great, they are rare, they are worth a spot. Something like Chain Reaction on a solar weapon, that is Solar Scar, that's the Trials sword. Love and Death, Canis Major, those are grenade launchers, and then the Code Duello and Ascendancy Rocket. Because Solar Chain Reaction will create Warmind cells, and in a lot of cases, the Chain Reaction will actually explode the Warmind cell that came up created. That's going to have global reach, it's going to have a big boom. Speaking of chain reaction, something like the Salvo, do not get rid of it. It's the only non-power weapon in the game to have chain reaction. It's still going to put in work with Witch Queen, regardless of it not having traits or not. Desperado Messenger, the Blunt Execution BXR, Headstone Stasis weapons, like IS Luna is a 140. We may not get another 140 Stasis hand cannon. The same with Peace Bond. 2-burst sidearm, brass attacks, rare archetype. I have 2 of them. And probably if we get a new one, it's not going to be Void. So something like Brass Attacks with an Ezrex Sin Warlock, you have something for it. And these have always been good. I don't know if you guys remember Breachlight, one of my favorite PvE weapons in the history of the game. There are certain bows like the Swashbuckler Biting Winds, the complete kit of Wolf Tone that has Shoot to Loot Dragonfly, Shoot to Loot Demo, Harmony. Harmony can one-tap in the Crucible. A lot of utility with this bow. And when new bows come out that have traits, then you can replace them if they have those perks. But as of now, these are standouts. All fusions with Tap the Trigger are firmly planted. Taps getting adjusted, firmly planted is still one of the best, if not the best in slot for a fusion, and it hasn't dropped on a fusion rifle in about a year. Accuracy and stability is key. Tube launchers, Disruption Break Truth Teller. Empty Vessel has good perks, Ignition Code. Look for Vorpal on Pardon and Ignition Code. Lots of utility roles with blinding and auto-loading. They're workhorses. Do not get rid of them. Primary ammo kinetic Vorpal weapons, only 14 of them, like the Braytech. Ignition Code Friction Fire. Time Worn Spire. These have value. Demolitionist and Wellspring weapons are about to be valuable, very valuable with Void 3.0, and then onto Solar and Arc 3.0, so be mindful of those. There's some that stand out. You're going to know that they stand out when you see them, but those are going to be some examples. And something like the Spoiler Alert, that's a kinetic sidearm. It's the only sidearm in the game with Osmosis. So if you have that, it's worth to keep if you use Osmosis. But then again, we do have weapon crafting. If a kinetic sidearm has Osmosis, yes, easily replaced, get rid of the Spoiler Alert. And here's the deal, we don't know the future, but with what we do now, what we keep is what we know is working. So like Zealot's Reward, the fast firing fusion, a lot of players are scared of a weapon rising to the top. And we saw it with that fusion. It was a good fusion. So if you have one in your vault that has something like Shield Disorient with backup plan, yeah, get it gone. You more than likely already have a replacement, an easy replacement that could be Cartesian or just another fusion archetype. There are some less used archetypes like the 2-burst sidearm. Ultimately, you're going to look at the role. With that role, if that archetype is to be buffed, would it even work well? Because if it doesn't, if you have like a Shield Disorient underdog role, then yeah, who cares? For the armor, a couple things to remember about the armor, what I want you to be mindful of. Remember, a fully masterwork piece of legendary armor is going to be able to be changed to another energy type for 10,000 Glimmer and an upgrade module. A fully masterwork piece of exotic gear can be changed to another energy type for 20,000 Glimmer and an upgrade module. Now, the cost of changing a piece of armor's energy type before it's fully masterwork, it's going to be unchanged. We have some play here. If you have 2 to 3 armor pieces that are all arc, that are masterworked, look at the stat distribution for your main character or for a build. How does that stat distribution work with the character? Obviously with Hunter, high mobility, Warlock, high recovery, because you're going to be able to change it to Void, Solar, Arc, easily. It has the cost, but it's easy. I'm currently keeping my fully masterworked armor until I see more, because the other thing to consider is the build crafting aspect. Straight up, strength and discipline armor, I think is about to be really fire with Void 3.0. So with your armor distribution, it would be worth keeping right now high 20 plus strength armor, high discipline armor, because it's looking good. But you need to get rid of anything that is sunset, anything that can't get to level. You need to get rid of exotic pieces that are in your vault that are 59 stat and below. unless it's kind of good. Like, let's say the only Ophidian aspects you have is 59, keep those, because if you pull it from collections, it'll be like 46. And with that theme, you might already have some armor within your vault that you've pulled out at some point to try that is in the 40s. Just get rid of it because you can pull it. As you go through them, like I have some really high stat stuff, 67, 68, 69, like my transversive step collection, it's crazy. But decisions are going to be made. I'm going to clean this over the weekend. I'm at about in the 490s out of 500. On my Twitter, there's going to be a link in the description. I'll post where I ended up. Armor-wise, get rid of low stats. Be thinking about build crafting with what you can do with strength and discipline. Of course, keep your main class ability. Again, it could be mobility for Hunter, Resilience Titan, Recovery Warlock. Make sure those are pretty good. It also depends on what it is. Like, say you have a 67 stat Hunter Shinobu's Vow for double skips. If it has 67 total stats, but the stat distribution only has 6 discipline, and right next to it you have a 61 stat Shinobu, but it has 22 discipline, you need to go with the 22 because that is designed for the exotic. You want that stat to be high out of the gate because starting at 6 is going to be a long road from there with the rest of your build. So think about what the exotic needs, go from there. So in a wrap up, easy deletes of sunset gear, exotics that you don't use, deletes of duplicates, and weapons that don't have gameplay worth. Again, if something like an Adept Tunnel Vision Wellspring Eye of Soul is there, just get it gone. But of course, if that's like your favorite sniper in the game, keep it. But more often than not, you need to move on from it. Pay attention to Warmind weapons, raid-ready weapons, and by that I mean your one-for-alls, your shoot-to-loots, your blinding grenades, things like that. Look at your daily drivers, ones that just perform all the time, and it doesn't matter if it was a year ago or a year from now. Look at your armor stat distribution. Keep multiples of something if you use them and it's a strong archetype. Exotic armor wise, if you have a neutral exotic like the Transversive Steps, one of them might not have the best recovery, but it has extremely high discipline. You have one right next to it with extremely high recovery with just a little bit of discipline. You can keep both of those in case you want to use the steps with the grenade build. It's going to be dependent on the player on how you play. I don't know how you play. Look for gear that has rare perks. We went over a couple of them, Desperado. And another big reminder is a lot of this stuff you haven't used in a long time. There's a reason you haven't used it for a long time. We have new stuff coming. Just tear the band-aid off. After you clean the vault, everything that's actually on your characters, throw in the vault. Then sort the vault to newest. Do the same thing. Get rid of some of those if it doesn't meet the criteria. That's the philosophy, that's the breakdown. If you're at 500 max vault, you want to at least be in the mid 350 range. You can do that. We have a big year ahead. You're going to want that space. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about this down below. And again, you don't have to do it now. You can do it for the rep later on when the content drops. The choice is yours. Thank you for watching. And until the next one, I am CoolGuy.